As you join us today, we encourage you to reflect on the land that you're on and its history. We're located on the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit and the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Wendat, and the Haudenosaunee.
The territory is within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon, One Pen Belt Covenant and is home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We are grateful to work on this land.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Bonnie Laufer, a Toronto-based film critic and entertainment journalist based here in Toronto, and I'm thrilled to be moderating this morning's press conference for Snakehead screening at this year's Toronto International Film Festival. Snakehead is a powerful and raw film. It's inspired by a real-life woman, a human smuggler known as a snakehead, and it follows her journey, her survival, and it follows her through the ranks of a crime family. It's quite an extraordinary story, and it took many years of perseverance to get it to the screen. So let's get things started. Let me introduce our guests today. First off, joining us is writer-director Evan Jackson Leong. Welcome.
Hi.
Next, we have the star, the amazing Shuya Chang.
Hello.
Welcome. I now want to welcome, wow, this woman blew me away in this film, the extraordinary Jade Wu.
Kind, hi.
And last but not least, you know he's fast and furious, but I am thrilled to welcome actor Sung Kang in a role you've never seen him in before. Welcome, Sung.
Hello. Hey, Bonnie.
Welcome to all of you. It's so great to have you here with us today. So, Evan, this has been an emotional journey. It's taken you 14 years to get this film to the screen. So let's start off by you telling us the origins of the project and why the story was so interesting and important to you.
Well, 14 years ago, I was a young man. And I mean, to be perfectly honest, I wrote this script to impress a girl. And now that girl is actually my wife, so it worked out. That being said, after spending time writing this story, I realized you get one chance to make a first movie, and if you have one story to tell, this is the story I wanted to tell. And what really attracted me to the story was the strong Asian matriarchs in this film, and the story, right? The original story it's based off of Sister Ping in your Chinatown, and for me that was what I really wanted to pay homage to and explore, because I never really got to see that in the film. And I grew up watching Scarface, Godfather, and Goodfellas, and that's what this film is. It's just an iteration of this American gangster story.
Yeah, it's really unbelievable. Shuya, in my humble opinion, you are the heart and soul of this movie. I don't even know how you got through some of those scenes. Quite extraordinary. What this woman went through was unbelievable. And I wanted to know what your initial reaction was to the story, and were you at all nervous about taking on this role?
Oh yeah, of course I was very nervous. I mean, first of all, there are no roles like this in Hollywood in general, right? I mean, there's many gangster movies, but not a female character. I mean, so I was thrilled to be able to play a role like this, right? So, I mean, she's a very, very strong character, but at the same time, she's very vulnerable. So it brings something to it, to this movie, right? It's a completely different perspective. It's a female's perspective, and I'm very grateful that Evan wrote this movie.
Yeah, and I want to know, because she goes through so much, how are you prepared physically for it? She takes a lot of punches, and also emotionally too.
Well, I think it's more like the emotional part of it, right? Where she came from. She to be born into prostitution. I mean, it's not a normal life. That's her norm.
Yeah.
Growing up in those type of circumstances, than to survive, right? So emotionally, it took a lot to become her. But I mean, as an actor, I'm very committed, and you just whatever I get, you commit to it. Physically, I guess personally, I'm already very athletic. I know I don't look like it, but I like physical things. And again, this movie was on low budget, so we didn't have much to work with. But we did have a stunt coordinator, but everything just kind of happened on the spot.
Yeah.
You know, we choreographed everything on the spot in a way. You know, and he showed me certain movements, and yeah, I like physical things, so I like physical movements and stuff like that. I express myself that way as well, so I had fun with it. That
Well,
I loved.
well, that's good. That's good that you had fun. Jade, you're next, and you are absolutely amazing as Dai Mah. You know, she's the crime boss, but she has this sense of calm. She's very maternal, but you don't want to cross her. So I was wondering for you, what your initial reaction was to this material, and what was it that what made you want to come on board?
Well, being in the industry for nearly 50 years, hardly any roles come up for an older Asian American woman, and to play one of the leads against Shuya is a gift and a blessing. So yes, I mean, I would have done this on Mars if it were offered to me, because you don't come across roles like this, and I had to be very careful about falling into a stereotypical caricature, because that's so often depicted in films in the past. And so, you have to think about this character every single day. How does she breathe? How does she eat? How does she move? How does she pick up a chopstick? It's all of those idiosyncrasies that you have to embody.
Yeah, really, really compelling performance. Sung, like I said earlier, your audiences, of course, know and love you so much from the Fast and Furious pictures, and you're so good in that. And seeing you in this movie, it's just a whole different role for you. Tell me a little bit about this character, Rambo, that you play, and what connected you to the material.
Well, Evan and I have been friends for it's been over probably 20 years now, right? And so I feel like I've, lived and breathed Snakehead since its inception. And yeah, I mean, I think that's the initial draw is to be able to work with an old friend, to be able to work on his first feature, to be able to be part of that dream and that experience, and be able to grow together. So, that was the first draw. And then also being able to have dialogue and trying to, make a bad guy three-dimensional and trying to, bring this character to life. And we had the luxury of being in New York at the same time. And we had, actors and consultants and friends that were part of, that lifestyle. And, I was able to hang out with a lot of like real former gangsters and actual like current gangsters, and kind of get in their mindset. And then, you take away the superficial and the one-dimensional idea of a Asian Chinatown gangster. You take that away and you make them three-dimensional, you make them human. They are sons, their fathers, their their brothers, their friends. They have dreams, and they have failures, and those were the things that I could identify with. I can identify with like shooting somebody or going to jail for half my life. That I will never claim, but I can identify being, a disappointment to one's father or one's family, or having dreams of being a good father or good husband, and then, just circumstance and luck not being on your side, and then falling into these things. And then finding insecurities that you could identify with, where I think, that's the one thing that Rambo is probably different from a lot of characters that I played in the past, is that you get to explore this relationship with Jade's character, my mother, and
Yeah.
that dilemma, that conflict, that history, and be able to just touch upon that. I think that's unusual, when you see a gangster or a bad guy on a film, and especially coming, with ethnic foundation, we never get to explore that. They too are, facing issues of daily life. Being a disappointment to one's mother. I mean, that's pretty cool to be able to dive into. As an
Yeah.
actor.
Absolutely. Yeah, you were really, really good in this. I have an audience question, and this is for Evan. Evan, we understand that you did a lot of research on Sister Ping, whose Dai Mah in Snakehead is based on. Can you share a bit of what you uncovered when you talked to people who knew her in real life?
Sure. Yeah. What was really interesting for me was talking to the FBI, the former Jade Squad members. There's this special Asian gang task force, and these former Jade. It was called the New York City FBI Jade Squad, and it was a culmination of the FBI, the police, and the ATF, and it was these different people in departments, and they talked about the world that I was wanting to explore. And I remember they were. I told them about Sister Ping and Sister, and they're like, yeah, we knew her. But, from the law enforcement side, they would tell me that, she did what she did. Immigrants do what they do.
Yeah.
But there were a lot worse and terrible people that were murdering, gangsters in the underworld. They were doing really terrible things, while at the same time she was doing something that was, it wasn't hurting anyone, and it also wasn't, it was this thing that somebody wanted, right? And a lot of it was actually very interesting. They talked about was like her bank. Basically, she had this sort of lending operation that you couldn't, it was hard to wire money back in the day, and so she was able to serve as this sort of source for immigrants to send money back to China. Right, without going through Bank of China, you just go to her, and then she has somebody back home, and then they make that exchange, and that was one of the bigger things that was like really interesting, that that the positive that she gave the community. In the underworld, everyone, the former gangsters, they knew of her and everything, and but in Chinatown, there's a lot of things that are happening, and so
Sure.
this was just one of the many. It was really interesting how sensationalized and how big her story got, because of headlines and the book and everything like that.
Yeah. I want to direct this question to both Jade and Shuya. Shuya, why don't you take it first? What was it like acting out a dysfunctional relationship between your on-screen characters in an intense crime drama setting? Because the relationship between you and Jade's character, like I said earlier, she's maternal, but yet, you don't want to cross her. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, of course, they both are sort of the same, but the polar opposite. They both just want to survive in their own ways, right? Sister C, she has different objectives. She wants to basically save her daughter, her family. That's what she wants, right? There's only so much resources that she has coming to the United States. She has no money, nothing. So she had to be smart. She had to be smart to get to the top in a quick way.
Yeah.
And I think she identifies herself with Dai Mah. She sees the power she has, but not just power, but the people that she can help along the way, getting to the top.
And also, sorry, go ahead.
I think there are a lot of parallels between the two characters, and I think what the film does is there is a convergence, and Sister T is the younger version of Dai Mah when she first came to the country.
Yeah.
So what she sees is a mirror image, and when she sees that, she identifies with it, because with the power that she's attained, over the course of this human trafficking, she also protected the people that got here, and she supported them. So there's a responsibility that comes with power, and that has to be a legacy that goes somewhere. and it can't go to Rambo because he's incapable of doing it. And the other son is the good son. And so it has to be with Sister C. So she identifies that, and she said, okay, she's the one who is going to carry on the legacy that I've now taken that position. Someone's got to do it, and no one else is capable of doing it.
Yeah. And Shuya, for you to work alongside Jade in this capacity, I mean, what do you learn from this wonderful veteran actress?
I mean, everything. I mean, just to watch her was a treat for me. I mean, she's just so grounded in her work, you know, her movements, everything. It's just, it was a treat for me to work with Jade and Sung. They both are such phenomenal actors, and they have completely two different styles. So for me, it was just mind blowing just to watch them alone.
Yeah. Sung, for you, you know, I was wondering what it was like to work on this. You come off these big budget franchise films, and then you know, no pun intended here, you really switch gears. So I wanted to know what you learned about yourself as an actor working on a film like this.
That we complain a lot. And a lot. Yeah, you learn how to complain quickly when you get used to the bigger budget stuff. But you know, I come from the indie world. So, I mean, Evan and our history is, now we met when we were shooting Better Luck Tomorrow. So I mean, that, I think we had a lot more on Snakehead than we did on Better Luck Tomorrow. So, you know, it big budget or indie, it doesn't really matter. It's really what happens when the camera's rolling. You know, that the process is the same. You know, the challenges are almost the same. It's, you know, more money, more problems, all of that. And you know, what you do learn is that, you know, you ask yourself every night, it's like, you know, am I here for the right reason? And you learn how to, you know, also make sure that you're selective in where you put your energy. You know, you can't, you know, these films take so much, and everyone puts so much into it. You know, I learned for myself is that if you can't give a director or a film or your castmates 100%, it's probably not wise for you to be a part of it, because you can inhibit, you can make the film suffer, especially at indie level. Like, all hands have to be on deck, you know. And so, you know, if I were to self-reflect, I would say, you know, I wish I could given the project more, but I was there, I was working on other stuff, and you know, it's you see that, you know, it's such a labor of love that if everyone isn't there with the same purpose and the same energy, you know, these films will slowly just start to fall apart, right? So I realize how important that is, and it's something that, you know, I have to question, you know, every time I, you know, join a project now, like, can I give it 100%? And if not, and I don't think anyone should, you know, like, no one needs anybody's favor. You know, you're there because it's a privilege, and you know, you get to collaborate and hopefully make beautiful art together. So yeah, that's what I learned, Bonnie.
Well, you did. You made beautiful art for this, that's for sure. Evan, can you talk a little bit about the production and what ended up at the end being the biggest challenges for you? Because it was your first film, first storytelling film, and you made it, you know, obviously tight budget, short time to do it. But at the end, you made it look so expensive. You made it look great. So tell me a little bit about the challenges that you faced.
Sure. You know, I think and any level movies are hard. You know, big budget, small budget, they're hard. And I think what really was hard for me is my first film, right? And the transition from documentary filmmaking to narrative filmmaking was a rude awakening. I felt I underestimated how different these two formats were, and you know, coming into this movie, it really served a challenge. You know, that being said, my documentary background in making films, like, I knew that we have to, you don't finish your work till you're done, till you're happy with it, and that sort of distance going, I knew I had to do that with this narrative film, right? And this film, you know, for me, it was quite difficult, because I had to learn how to, you know, make a narrative film. I mean, almost even as we're going and after we shot it. And so it was that the learning curve for me for that was truly the biggest challenge. You know, that being said, you know, fortunately I was able to have like these wonderful, beautiful actors with me, and they gave me so much to work with, which made the job I'm not here without them. I can't get to this point without having their experience, and picking me up where I just didn't know what to do. And that was that for me, when I think about what this film is and how this collaboration works between director and actor, it was something I never really experienced before. And I'm so fortunate to have these performances from these amazing people.
But you have these amazing people, and it took you so long to get this. What was your motivation? How do you keep going after 14 years?
Well, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I have a Korean wife. One of her things was you better get this done, and you better not embarrass me. So, yeah, there's a lot of motivation in getting this there. And also that being said, I don't know what I know how much this opportunity meant to me, and I knew I couldn't squander it, and so there's no way I'm turning in something that is I'm not finishing this till I'm satisfied with it, right? And at the end, like what kept me going, I really it's just passion. I love the craft, I love the work, I love that more than anything, and I'm happy when the pain. And you're not saying it was easy. There's no part of this post process or production part that was easy, but I embraced the struggle, because I think that's just what filmmaking is to me as a director. It's a struggle. It's pain. It's mean. But when you get to the other side, you make art that's going to outlast you, and that's that is why I do this. So.
Yeah, thank you for doing it. It's great. I just want to go around the table. Shuya, we'll start with you. Most memorable moments from making this film?
Most memorable moments? I mean, there were so many, so it's hard to tell just one. But for me, it was definitely one of the Taiwan scenes. So it's one of the playback scenes, and the moment where she sits down and remembers her daughter when she was little at that lake. And then it started raining, and there's this bittersweet moment of her that you see in her face. So that kind of like stuck with me for some reason. It was just a beautiful moment for me. Also because I'm also from Taiwan, so that was just a sweet moment for me, definitely.
Very nice. Jade, how about you?
I think my favorite moment was the night shoot on the bus. So there was a people shuttle, and Shuya and Sung and I were on the bus and for many hours, I think, and we were shooting. And I don't know how many boroughs we went through on the bus, but the conversations that came out of that behind the scenes, I think, created the humanistic side that you see on screen. So that moment was memorable because you don't have that opportunity when you're working in television or big budget films. You don't have the luxury of spending that time and having that camera roll and capturing certain moments that are probably sometimes not even in the script. They're spontaneous. And they work and they push the story along. So that was my favorite moment.
And Sung, how about you?
There was a moment in a safe house where we were all together one day. It was cold. There was a scene, and we had this heater up in the attic somewhere, and we were trying to stay warm. And I think most of the cast was there for some weird reason that day. And then there was a porta potty that they needed to move. I don't know why. I think it was in front of the house or something, but it was an actual like working porta potty with human excrement in it. And then I see Evan and Brian, the producer, and crew members like lifting this porta potty above the fence to get it out of the way. And I was looking at that and going, look where we're shooting. There's no, I don't know I don't even know if we have a permit to be in this house or permission. I don't know how we got here. And then they're literally moving a porta potty to get out of the shot because it probably wasn't period correct porta potty. So to get out of the way. But there's and all I heard was that there was juice coming out of the porta potty. And I go, this is the spirit of indie filmmaking at its best, right?
I don't think anybody could top that story. You win.
Yeah, no, and it was actually the director, the cinematographer, the three producers.
Right.
So it wasn't. These are important people that could have been, dealing with this liquid that was swapping around.
Yeah. The fact that these were the individuals moving the porta potty while we needed to be shooting is hilarious, right? You get it done.
Absolutely.
You get it done. Yeah.
Shuya, quickly, your character, of course, in the beginning, she's got to learn how to make dumplings. So I hope that you are now a dumpling making expert.
Well, because I'm an Asian woman, I learned how to make dumpling in a very early age. So I have been an expert already, but it was definitely fun to just act like I don't know how to make it, and in the scene it was fun because it was Yasin, who basically he's a African American male teaching me how to make dumplings. So that was kind of fun, and it's a nice little humor in there, I think.
Absolutely. And we only have a couple minutes left, but Evan, I want to wrap it up with you. As I said, you hit the jackpot with this amazing cast. And I wanted to know at the end of the day what you learned from each and every one of these amazing people.
Wow, that's a big one. I mean, individual. I mean, for me, really was the understanding and respecting the craft, right? As a documentary filmmaker, you really are watching life, and you are experiencing truth everywhere you go and everything you shoot. And in narrative filmmaking, we are creating truth, and we are trying to find the truth. And working with these actors, they really pushed me to and challenged me to really see what truth is. And that's something I didn't fully understand as a narrative filmmaker, as a director. And I was fortunate because they had the experience and they have the background to share that with me in a way that I can understand. Right? I mean, they took a risk on a first-time director, and I think that's what I appreciate and I love so much about them in this process. Each one of them brings so much to the table. I was Shuya. There was a level of confidence that I was like, that's an archetype that I never got to see before, right? I mean, Jade walks on set and it's like, oh, everyone's just standing up a little more straight, and Dai Mah's presence is there, and it really set a tone, right? And having sung as my big brother, I've known him for 20 years. He's seen me as a college student to where we are now, and for him to just be with me as an experience, it's just it's just another great life moment to share with one of your family members. And I think that's each one of these. For me, anytime these projects I start on and people I work with these are my passion projects, it's really just the beginning of and the continuation of the relationships, because I don't see this as, this was when we went to war together. It wasn't like this job that we did together. And I think that's something I'll always remember.
Oh, that's fantastic. And we have to wrap up, but I just, congratulations to everyone on this film. You all did such a fantastic job. I want to thank you all so much for being here today and to talk about Snakehead. And of course, I'd like to thank the TIFF audience for watching at home. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Thank you.